Hello everyone. This is the sixth video in a series on strategy for Middle-earth collectible card game. This is recorded after the video where we played, and we are going to go into what is probably the most difficult and arguably most important part of strategy in a collectible card game in general, but this game in specific, which is review and revision. Our first test game went very well. We won by a large margin, but there were a few points of problems that we ran into. We got our wizard killed, which was not good. We did not, we had more than half of our points from items, which meant that we lost points overall, and we failed to play quite a few of our hazards, not hazards, especially the factions. We drew both Petty Dwarves and Blue Mountain Dwarves fairly early on and wound up playing neither of them. We also ran into some issues with our characters. Now, some of that was the wizard getting killed, but we had a lot of luck up in our, what we were playing, and a few turns where we were very vulnerable to any hazards that threw against our GI. So we would like to correct all of those problems if at all possible. I think part of it is, in some ways, we can kill two birds with one stone if we have a few more big dwarves in the party. When Balin died on the first turn, that really left Gloin and the wizard as the only two who were really effectively likely to play the two dwarven factions that we've got. So let's ditch Barmer, we'll ditch Gildor, we'll ditch Celeborn, and in their place, let's add Gimli, Thorin, and Thrain. Now, whoops, we have the wrong versions of them because this, there we go. Even though we're not designing for a dream card setup, the card base that they've got here has them, so it threw in the dream card versions. Now, these aren't these aren't one-to-one substitutions. Gimli actually is a pretty good substitution for Celeborn, having the same mind. He also does have a +1 DI against elves and elf factions, and the elves of Linden, unlike the wood elves, don't have a penalty for dwarves. Thorin would be able, if we have the GI, which is not assured, be able to pop up in the Blue Mountains Wharfhold, and he's got another 2 influence against dwarves and dwarf factions, so he would be able to hold Oin if it was necessary. Thrain can actually hold either Gloin or Balin. He's also both a ranger and a sage, which is good for some of our cards. I do like having both Eladon and Elro here. I do like Haldir for the backup with Glorfindel. I do feel like we would be well served by a couple of low mind characters in case, like, Gimli or one of these guys was off on their own. But at the same time, I just don't see how we can fit it in without with our GI limitations. So hopefully that will kill two birds with one stone. If we make the dwarven factions more playable, we thereby make the item. So, we'll have more non-item points. We will have more, less of a risk of losing anything to having too many points concentrated in one setup. The Palantir, so one of the reasons I was looking at the Palantir is if we have to go there and back, it's the 5 points is spread out over 2 turns, which is not amazing, but it is an item. We do plan on storing it. I am still worried about corruption, and if we're planning on playing fellowships at any point, we will have to run back to a haven after all, so I think I will keep that. I do like the overall mix up of, supporting events to items and point cards. Over on the hazard side, our hazards were effective. We didn't give away any kill points. We slowed him down several points in the game. We were able to, eliminate several characters and allies and wound overall. The one thing I would say is I did not feel like we got a whole lot out of our orc warbands. I don't think we play, and I kept discarding them. I think we have a bit too much. Right now, we have 7 of our 13 creatures. Loudmouth I'm not counting as a creature, because we're mostly intending to play him as a short event. But 7 of our 13 creatures are effectively at their biggest use if they're played after something else. And I think that's a bit too unbalanced. So I'm going to get rid of the warbands. I'm going to move one of the Nazgul. Should we have Yuvatha? Because if we're creature heavy, I think I'm going to add Yuvatha just into the main deck. Yuvatha has a similar ability to Loudmouth's, although it costs more hazard against the hazard limit to play it, and he only works on creatures. So we do have, because the creature or events count as half a creature, we do have the 12 for the Council of Lorien requirement. We could just add another Orc Lieutenant in. I think I'll do that. Make it very simple, easy, replaceable. I'm hoping this will be a bit more effective while keeping to the same overall concept. We have some recyclability with Yuvatha and Loudmouth. We have the unexpected outposts to bring in stuff depending on what we'll see of our opponents. And I'm hoping this is more... we didn't make major effects. Generally, major changes you make if you lose or your deck very badly failed to meet its requirements, and we broadly met ours. Going forward in the future, I do think the bigger issue, we should just be a bit more aware of what some of the cards do. That whole Villages Roused in the Old Forest was a nasty surprise, mostly because I conflated it with Fearfire Foes for some reason, and badly ran into the teeth of enemy defenses. That was very foolish and cost us quite a lot of points. But other than that, I do think this deck is pretty strong, and we will be... I've arranged for another match to play the updated version, and I hopefully will be uploading that after this video. And after the second game with this, we'll do another evaluation of this deck, and then I'm hoping to make a one-ring deck and go into the concepts underlying a one-ring strategy. Even if you're not interested in playing one-ring decks, you probably should have at least a basic familiarity with the strategy so you can know what countermeasures to take if you run into one. Anyway, this is going to be one of the shorter videos, but I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.